Ross Smith and Matt Johnson. A couple minutes away from the beginning of the second half. Let's take a look back at the first half. The Portland Timbers and Seattle Sounders each getting on the board. Started in the 33rd minute. Huntwala Buana.
Well, for Vargas here, just putting the cross in. Nice and positive from him. He's going at Cascante, gets his little bit of space and a fortunate deflection. That takes it onto the back stick, but Buana doesn't he do well. Controls that ball coming down out of the sky, sends it into the back of the net.
Just about 5 minutes later, the Timbers earn a penalty.
I thought this was a little harsh on the center back to Lem, just where that contact is being made. Andy Polo felt it was inside the area, so did the referee, and Valeri, he steps up and doesn't he take it nicely. Just opens up his foot, enough pace and enough power to take it into the back stanchion. Brian
Meredith guessed correctly, however, the penalty perfectly placed from Diego Valeri, so it's 1-1 at halftime. As always, in the preseason, we expect a lot of changes throughout this second half. We'll get to see even more of Seattle's young group. They signed 8 players from their U7 teams to their USL team over the past year. That team, now known as Tacoma Defiance, used to be called Sounders 2, and we expect to see a handful, even more of those guys in the second half. For the Timbers, we expect the starters to go for about 15 more minutes until the 60th minute or so. Guys like Christian Paredes and David Guzman and Julio Cascante. From there, a whole line change, so to speak. Here are the Sounders starters coming out, led by their goalkeeper, Brian Meredith, who had a little bit to do in the first half. Ross, I know you were impressed with the sharpness, the urgency from both teams in the first half of this match.
Well, for teams coming into preseason, sometimes they can feel, I can go through the motions here, and maybe more so towards the senior players, where youngsters always have something to prove to the managers. But you saw committed effort from both sides of the Portland Timbers. Impressed with the sharpness, but I think the Portland Timbers will say themselves impressed with the youngsters from Seattle Sounders, Matt, the energy from them, and obviously the ideas that they have. There certainly was a plan in place and a style that the Sounders wanted to play in.
No, I think you're right on. Not only proving yourself, but it is Portland and Seattle, and it doesn't matter if you're 15, 18, or 25 years old. You know what that means. It's a proving ground in the Northwest, but I think your point is great, Ross. There's some guys out here that are seeing, hey, my job's on the line. McCrary with other trialists coming in, he's doing what he can. DeLem, he's got to do well, or else Gustav, he'll just be down the pecking order. This is a great showing by guys that have to prove to not only Gio and Brian that they belong on this pitch.
Alejandro Mariscal is our referee today. He hands the ball to Will Bruin. Checks with the benches. Sets his watch and gets us underway the second half of a preseason match between the Portland Timbers and the Seattle Sounders. No changes from either team at halftime. The starting groups stayed. For the Timbers, a more experienced starting group than Seattle, who rested what you'd consider kind of at this point to be their probable starting 11. They will play on Saturday, and Seattle's next match, final match here in Tucson against Dallas.
Yeah, Brian wants to get that rhythm of Saturday. Obviously Saturday against Dallas, and then another Saturday in San Jose.
Bruin getting it over to Ship. Valentine on his back. Ship keeps his feet. Still has it. Strong tackle from Guzman, and equally as strong from Ship. Finally, the Timbers come away with it. Can they break? Valeri forward towards Milano. It was broken up by Roldan.
I thought Ship did well, equally Valentine, but for a moment there I thought Valentine was getting himself in a little trouble with Ship, almost using too much of his body to try and get the ball, whereas Ship, honest enough, stayed on his feet, tried to keep the ball in possession. Just before that, Will Bruin using his body, the back into Paredes, almost taking an elbow. Paredes turning to the referee. And the referee more or less saying you need to be stronger than that, and Paredes then trying to have a bite on Bruin. But that physicality with Bruin putting himself about, giving something for the center backs for the Timbers to worry about.
Here's Bruin leaving for Buana. Wide to Ship. And Ship sails that cross over everybody. Wingo will run it down. Roldan on the ground. Vargas, the youngster, he couldn't get to it, and it's a goal kick.
Good idea, and again it's those spaces in between the center back and the full backs that the Sounders are trying to get into. And for Ship as well, for him, he was always looking to get on the ball, fine technician, he can twist in and out, he can have a clever way to go about, where in his mind he can see the game differently and he can look after the ball well.
Well, I was ready to gush about Leyva tonight, but it's Vargas as one of the youngsters who's impressing me. On the right-hand side, the 18-year-old joined the academy in 16, and he looks the part.
An impressive group, those U17s that won the national championship this year. Just reading about them in preparation for this game certainly made me look forward to seeing them today. They signed 8 players to the Tacoma Defiance, a team that won that U17 national championship. They destroyed Atlanta in the final 5-1. Some of the goal scoring numbers for some of these guys is outrageous. Vargas,
bizarre,
25 goals and 31 assists.
Yeah.
Unreal. McCrary couldn't keep that in play.
Just missed a moment there, McCrary. Will Bruin positioned himself nicely between Mabiala and Cascante. Was looking for that slip pass.
Leyva, he's just 15, finds Wingo coming forward. Wingo running at Villafana. Still Henry Wingo. Leaves it for Alex Roldan. Wingo again. Gets around Villafana well. Wingo to the byline, sending it across. Buana heading it down and out for a corner.
Well, Wingo, he's shaped up with confidence. And what I mean by that, the way that he gets squared toward Villafana, and he had one thing in mind, just to go at Villafana, and he knocks it one side, runs the other, and then stands the ball up to the far post. Buana got a goal from a similar position, going the other way in the first half. Can't get the right connection on the ball, almost trying to go back across goal with his header this time.
Buana will take this corner, and it's easy for Jeff Adinella to handle. He wants to go quick. Polo, he's got speed and he's showing it, getting around Vargas, the youngster. A professional foul, as they used to call it, now a tactical foul, right? And it's a yellow clearly for the 18-year-old Marlon Vargas.
Well, he felt he had to. Polo, he saw what he was up against, just knocked the ball, and he was just going to use his speed, and by then Vargas, he was dead in the water. Thought he'd just hold on to him when he could, but this is a good break. We saw this time and again from the Timbers last year. As soon as the ball gets into the hands of Atinella, they're looking to go. And Polo, he's very efficient with his running, but Vargas decides that that's far enough for you, Polo.
Poor angle by Vargas to start, but Brian Schmetzer will like the little tackle at the end. That's kind of Brian Schmetzer ball. Stop when you can.
Well, Polo's gonna, to be fair to Marlon Vargas, he's gonna sprint past, what, 95% of the players in MLS in a situation like that. So his only goal of the year was similar. It was against the Columbus Crew, and he came blazing down this right side. Made an 80-90 yard run that ended up kind of with an awkward karate kick finish into an open net.
It was quite acrobatic. I heard many people say that's one of the better goals that they saw from a Portland Timber last season.
At least until the playoffs, maybe. And there were some good ones.
That right there has been the strength of Leyva in the matches. The match I've seen and the scrimmages I've seen is the open ball. He just has been pinpoint with the ball, and we haven't seen that tonight from the young man.
He's the youngest player on the field, 15 years old, signed to the Tacoma Defiance. Second youngest player ever to appear in USL. Impressive to see a guy like that out here with Diego Valeri, David Guzman, Andy Polo, and the such. Here is Polo. Defended well by Handwala Buana.
And McCrary as well. McCrary, he split the difference because he had two players to worry about when Valeri is on the ball. And for that, as a defender, the fullback, you have to tuck in. You have to make sure that you stop the immediate threat. Got the header, and then he was able to rely on Buana getting back and doing his defensive responsibilities.
Bruin does well to turn. Wide to Buana, who has space. Still Buana. A couple step overs, and Adinella goes down to make the save.
No, the outside, Buana and Wingo, this just screams that they had a talking to by Brian Schmetzer. Wingo immediately, twice now, has gone on the right back, and Buwana has been told, I would think, that I want you to go at him. I don't care what happens, just go at him and show that you can take a man one-on-one.
And Valentin there just affording the space, though. He's backing up. He's obviously worrying about the attacker running straight at him, obviously worried about being in the area, dangling a leg. It's very positive from Buwana.
Pro's pro and Valentin.
Signed an extension this offseason. Eric Valentin will stay in Portland for a few more years.
Got married. He's got to be a happy guy.
He's married. Yes, he was.
I see the pictures. Twitter and all that stuff you young kids do.
He started a podcast with Jeff Adinella this preseason. Did Eric Valentin? It's been a big couple months for him.
Busy boy.
I also started an MLS Cup, you know, no big deal. Guzman trying to turn around Leyva, and the 15-year-old is called for the foul. Seattle is preparing their first substitution. Azriel Gonzalez getting ready to come in. It looks like they'll wait until after the free kick. Gonzalez is standing with the fourth official.
Brian Schmetzer off his bench, set piece defending, huge for Brian in the offseason.
Valeri floats it in. It got to Cascante. And Polo, Blanco, Paredes are appealing, and it's finally given. It was a very late decision from Alejandro Mariscal. It is a handball, and it is the second penalty kick of the match for the Portland Timbers.
Little doubt in the referee's minds.
I think it's clear.
Just when this ball comes in. See, that left arm does go up, and it is clear. And I don't quite know.
I want to say Delem.
What Delem is thinking.
Yeah.
Delem going up, he's there, he's going to go win the ball, but it's almost as though he's shielding his head from it, and the referee is right to point to the spot.
We see it at all levels, Ross. I don't understand defenders that go up with their arms. Who am I to speak? Never getting to a high level, but arms go up, things happen. Usually they're bad for the defender.
Well, they need to go up at a certain level, don't they, to protect yourself and keep that space in, so no heads are coming in to collide with your own, but to put it up above your head and put it towards the ball as well, the way Delem did, it's an easy decision for the referee.
Alejandro Mariscal, the referee's taking his time. He briefly put his finger to his ear, which would indicate a check with his video assistant referee, Fotis Bazakos.
Did he do that in the first PK? I didn't see him do that for the first PK.
There was far less time in the first PK. I mean, everything is checked, right? So in the video review room, they were checking that first penalty kick decision. It was also Delem who was whistled for the foul on that one. But there certainly was not a lengthy delay before it, as there is right now. So maybe a thought that it was a natural position, the arm from Delem.
Question, natural, unnatural, deliberate, or not, but I think as soon as you put your arm above your head the way Delem did, you're running the risk and you're making contact with the ball.
And it's going towards goal.
Then it has to be intentional, it has to be given a penalty.
Which way does Meredith go?
Well, are they even going to be able to take the penalty? That's the question right now.
You also have to wonder, is it just about the handball, the arm? I think you're wondering as well, is the referee looking at a foul perhaps beforehand? Is there a foul? Is there a push that's happening in the box, in the area that is clear and obvious that the referee can rule out the penalty?
Well, he's going to take a look. Under review, the decision to give the penalty as of now. Here's another look.
Just looking at number 21, Jody Delem. As he's coming across, that left arm coming across. Now it comes off the head of Cascante, then onto the arm. So what you're saying is that's not enough time for Delem to be able to readjust, and so it's not deliberate. But for me, as soon as you put your arm to that height above your head, then you're running the risk and you're making your body bigger, and it's a penalty. So if that's exactly what the referee is looking at, and it is the handball decision, it has to be a penalty.
And you mentioned it. Maybe there was a foul. Maybe it was a Guzman on McCrary foul, or but again, prior to that, it was clean in the box. Another great ball in. And to me, Ross, to your point, Delem's arm is just in an unnatural position. There you go, Jake.
We wait for the decision from Alejandro Mariscal. He's going to explain it first to Diego Valeri, and he's going to wave off the penalty.
Well, I just wonder if the referee has seen it as a foul going into it, because for me, it's definitely a handball situation.
Actually, it's offside. So we're given, we have, not only is there VAR on the field, the same communication that we get during the regular season, we're getting here in preseason in Tucson. Julio Cascante judged to be offside when the free kick was taken. Makes a lot more sense.
Makes more sense. It's one we certainly would need to see again from the angle we're seeing. Not privy to what the offside line is. So we see it, that ball coming in. Now the initial one with Julio Cascante.
Milano's not involved in the play.
But Milano's not involved in the play, so it has to be. It has to be Julio Cascante is what you're looking for, because he's the player that makes the contact on the ball. Milano does drift into an offside position, but he's inactive. He's not active into the play.
And that was the call, was that Julio Cascante was offside. That's what has been communicated to us.
Bob, see if you can get that
down the left side. It comes via Fania with Milano in the middle, and it's too far for Lucas Milano. Valeri keeps it in play for the Timbers.
Yes, please.
Blanco. Seattle made a sub, as you saw, Azriel Gonzalez in the match. The Timbers David Guzman whistled for a foul. Let's go back to the offside.
Well, from the moment the ball is hit, you're just looking at number 18, Julio Cascante. And that, for me, it looks so tight. Now, is this clear and obvious? So when that ball is hit, it's slight. It's maybe so slight. And so
it's an arm.
The parameters are clear and obvious. Now, the arm can't be offside because it's any part of the body that can score a goal. And so that, for me, it's not definitive. I don't think that's the right decision. I think that's very harsh to turn that over for it to be clear and obvious. It's not clear and obviously offside.
Well, here's the line change from the Portland Timbers. 11 in and 11 out. Diego Valeri has the goal today. The starters for the Timbers leave with the score tied 1-1. Coming into the match in a similar 4-2-3-1 as the starters are Steve Clark in goal, as the Timbers fans that are here give a nice applause for the starters that left and the guys coming in. It's Steve Clark in goal. It's Roy Miller at right back, Bill Tuiloma and Claude Diona, the center backs, Marco Farfan, the left back, Diego Chara and Andres Flores in the defensive midfield, Darren Asprilla on the right wing, Tomas Konechny on the left wing, Marvin Loria in the middle, and Jeremy Ibobisi starting up top.
I think a lot of excitement for Marvin Loria, just to see what he's able to produce, and just watching him at training. You watched him last year, the T2, and then you can look at the US Open Cup for the Timbers against San Jose. He's at a different level. What stands out to you? He's full of the game, and he's always looking to get on the ball. He's got great quality with his lovely left foot. So to see what impact he can have in this game and linking up with Jeremy Ibobisi.
He was capped by Costa Rica for the first time in their game against the US. He started that match. He's 21 years old, was on loan from Saprissa to T2 last year, had 6 goals and 7 assists. Signed to the first team in the offseason along with Renzo Zambrano from T2. A guy that both players that the Timbers I know are excited about, and Loria we're getting to see tonight.
Loria showing off his first cap to Jeremy Ibobisi, who can say, well, here's my first cap as well. What do you think of this one for the US? Good strong challenge from Asprilla coming in.
A couple 21-year-olds making their national team debuts in the most recent international friendlies. David Guzman was with Costa Rica, of course, as well. Roldan comes around Loria. Ship out wide and too far for Azriel Gonzalez.
They are willing to be brave on the ball, the Sounders, though, Matt. Trying to work themselves out. The final pass didn't come through.
Yeah, last 2 times they had possession, it was either the newcomers for Portland just getting under the game here, just got onto the pitch. Nice some 1-2s. I've been watching Leyva, who's kind of going back to the back line and directing traffic a little deeper. But again, not out of place, many of these Sounders.
Loria couldn't handle that.
Just wondering if Alex Roldan's going to get stuck in one more time before the 75th. He's on 1 yellow. He had another foul. His earlier yellow in the 36th on Valeri. And he's got that in his game.
Was the players, they'll be looking up towards that clock, and for the Seattle Sounders expecting to be turned out, they'll be thinking, right, can I get another moment in? And whatever that moment may be, a tackle, a nice pass that slipped through, a strike towards goal, whatever it may be, but you want to get that lasting impression in a final moment before your time comes.
Quick bit of lineup housekeeping. As you can see, it's Marco Farfan at right back, Roy Miller at left back. You have 2 natural left-footed guys there in Farfan and Miller.
Sounders are going to bring on a couple more 17-year-olds and another 16-year-old in the 75th. Not quite the 11 that Portland did, but give it up to Jake Zivin to figure it all out.
Hey, I'll say this: if you're a Sounders fan, the Tacoma Defiance, as they're now known, used to be S2, is going to me, would be a must-watch this year. It's a group of your best and youngest, former academy players. They're going to be way younger than everybody they play against, and they might struggle in the results. But if nothing else, it'll be fun to watch. Here's Buana, top of the box, poked away by Farfan, and then swept to midfield by Dielna. Flicked on by Ibobasi. Oh, Esprit is turning on the Jets. Can he get there before Ship? Yes, he can. Here's Marvin Loria. Loria hitting it from distance. It's blocked by Campbell. Flores knocking it down to Chara.
Yeah, president of soccer and GM Garth Lagerwey, he didn't guarantee a playoff spot, but he said, listen, this...
Konechny towards Ibobasi, dealt with by Campbell.
The Defiance are going to win games. Last year it was youngsters versus grown men, and it's going to be something you'll want to watch down in Tacoma.
Miller gets it poked away. Roy Miller coming back from the Achilles injury. He's a guest player. Technically here in Tucson with the Timbers. Of course, tore his Achilles tendon the day before, the final moment of training before their second leg loss to Houston in the 2017 playoffs. Would have started that match at center back. If you remember, Timbers were just decimated by injuries by that time.
He was having himself a very good season. One of the most consistent defenders for the Timbers that year.
Missed all of last year. Did come back and played a few matches with T2 last year. And has been with the Timbers this preseason.
Just a missed touch from Ibobasi, but of course Ibobasi would have been watching Milano in the first half. Would have been seeing what he's been doing in preseason, scoring his 3 goals. And so all of a sudden, a little bit of extra pressure for Ibobasi to come in his mind after what he put on the second half of the season, the final third of the season. He would have been thinking, right, if there's no other signings coming in, brought into the striker position, I need to be the main man. Well, Milano then is starting to compete and starting to move up the ranks in that position.
Espria coming forward, slides it to Loria, leaves it to Espria. Espria in the box. He tries a shot from a narrow angle, and he couldn't put it on the frame.
And to your point, Ross, Gio's got to be loving that. Milano shows up and with that kind of performance in the first half, that puts a pressure on anybody who wants his minutes. And he can say, how do I move Milano? Milano had a heck of a first half. What do you want from me? That guy's producing. Produce for me.
You keep your spot, and for preseason, it's positions there to be won. You can imagine for both managers, for Gio, for Brian Schmetzer, in their mind, there's certain guys who you can bet the house on that they're going to be starting, but then there's other positions where you think, right, well, let me see what other players are going to show me in preseason, and not just a one-off, a day in, day out. How are they with the grind that comes with preseason? Do they have the character to be able to stick things out?
You talk to Brian earlier, he always just brings up pro sports. It's pro sports. There's someone to take your spot. You know, produce, or there's someone to take your spot, and that's the hammer. And I love Milano's game earlier on. I mean, the move he played on top of the box, you know, you mentioned those 4 guys, and a guy like Will Bruin knows that Rui Diaz is the number 1, and he's still got to put in the time and the effort and the minutes.
Here's Roy Miller. Now Marco Farfan. Thought about hitting it and then tried to play it in. It was broken up.
I've been watching Buwana a couple different times defend, and he's coming back. He's clogging up the middle, and that's a role I've never seen him play. Pretty impressed with that kid from Ballard High School in UW.
He has the goal for Seattle today, back in the 33rd minute. It was equalized by Diego Valeri from the spot in the 40th. Konechny turns, Asprilla wants it. Instead, he goes behind Andres Flores. It ends up with Marco Farfan. Now Asprilla gets it. Behind Konechny. Here's Buana.
Tomas Konechny, he's another player to keep your eye on. I think last year didn't have a whole lot of chances. You think about Minnesota away in the first half, it was a chance for him, but the game didn't go the Timbers' way in general for all players. And so for him, it's all about this season now, preseason, getting some time under him.
Roldan hits it well, but it's right at Steve Clark. That was Konechny's only start of the season in Minnesota. Left at halftime, was subbed out. Dangerous free kick coming from Seattle. Ship draws the foul, and a chance to challenge Steve Clark.
The Ship getting on the ball. Luria, it's more a slip from maybe Ship. The referee's in a good position, just coming into your screen late. I think it's a poor decision, a wrong decision.
Steve Clark setting his wall. Clark brought back in the offseason. Was with the Timbers starting October 17th of 2018. Started 6 of the last 8 matches of the regular season. As Jeff Adenella was dealing with some injuries. Looks like it's going to be Henry Wingo. Here is Wingo, got it up and off the wall and down and out for a corner.
He's been a confident man this game, I would say, with Wingo. He's releasing position from the right back area, and he's just come onto the free kick as well. He's taken it well, but the wall has done its job.
He's a 23-year-old, now in his 3rd season with Seattle, a homegrown. Buana, he's been confident today. Dielna, strong clearance. Asprilla through the back of McCrary. Asprilla will be whistled for the foul, just kind of undercut him.
I thought Asprilla had position on him, and McCrary kind of mistimed the header. Asprilla's like, what do you want from me?
Alejandro Mariscal disagrees. 8 subs coming for Seattle. Or is it 9? I think it's going to be 9. 9 players coming in for Seattle. We'll see who the lone one is to stay. Azriel Gonzalez certainly will stay, having come on in this second half. There'll be one other. We think it'll be Danny Leyva who will stay on. Preseason line changes, always a joy of Tucson. It is Leyva who remains on with the new 9 players for Seattle.
Azriel Gonzalez has switched to the left, Jake. That puts Ray Serrano up on the right-hand side.
So Trey Muse comes in goal. Nuhu at left back, Alex Berkholz, Josh Atencio, the center backs, Kyle Van Alstine, who is a guest player, a Tucson native, plays for FC Tucson. He's the right back. There's Nuhu, a person who will certainly be familiar to Timbers supporters and obviously Sounders supporters. The most experienced of the players in the match right now for Seattle. The two holding midfielders, Danny Leyva, the 15-year-old who stays on, and Joel Ridestrand, a second-round draft pick unsigned as of now. Ray Serrano, as Matt mentioned, on the right wing. Danny Robles in the middle. Azriel Gonzalez on the left wing, and Alec Diaz, the 17-year-old up top. So the attack, you've got 17, 16, 17, 17 years old for Seattle. A 15-year-old in the midfield. A 17-year-old center back. 19-year-old goalkeeper. It is a young Sounders group on the field right now.
And a set piece taken by Nuhu, which I've never seen.
It's not a bad ball to the back post from Nuhu, and Miller heads it out for, is it a corner? It is. Snuck out on the end line side of the flag.
Terrific ball from Nuhu. Great shape going to the far post, but Miller, he's defended that very well.
And the oldster, as you can see, is the captain for the last 15 minutes.
He's only 21 years old himself.
The old man, 21.
The old man on the field. 47 games in MLS. That is far more than everybody combined. In fact, he's the only player on the field for Seattle right now that has appeared in an MLS match.
The referee just having a conversation with both sets of players. Stopping play just to make sure they know, not too much grappling and picking going on.
The corner in, headed away by Diego Chara at the near post.
It's a player on the ball, Dielna. I think Timbers fans will be looking forward to seeing him play. Coming across from New England Revolution, just to see what he can offer in balance in the center-back position. A nice left foot from him. Off and on at New England Revolution would describe his performances.
Spria through for Laria a little too much. He was able to get there and keep it in play. The offside flag comes up in the end. And getting back to Claude Dielna, Timbers traded for his rights to New England in the offseason, $100,000 in general allocation money. Then they signed him. He was unsigned by New England. They declined his option so they could renegotiate. Played 17 matches with New England last year. He played 17 in the first 21, then was nowhere to be found for the last 13. That was relatively common. Oh, here's Laria. That's a foul.
Brad Friedel taking over.
Yeah, and that happened with multiple players in the middle of the season, throughout the season with New England, where Brad Friedel, for whatever reason, decided to kind of keep them away, and Dielna was one of those guys.
Isn't that interesting, Ross? There are opportunities for guys that are sitting on the bench when a new coach comes in, but bam, all of a sudden, I want to say frozen out, but I'm not at every training. You never know what to think, but Friedel comes in and says, no, these are my guys. Happens all the time worldwide.
New manager coming in for a reason. You often think because the previous manager didn't work, and so they feel as though their ideas is the way to go forwards, and they need to get the right players in and the players on board.
Spria to Marvin Laria. Back to Spria. Can he turn? And Nuhu hits it about 80 yards out of the facility here.
That's to Scottsdale.
Yeah, exactly. What's south of Tucson?
It's a good combination play. Laria, he digs what is slightly ahead pass for Laria, but I think with Nuhu here, if that's the regular keeper, if that's Stefan Fry, he'd be having a word with Nuhu. Why are you giving away an easy corner kick? But then at the same time, Fry would be screaming for that ball back to want to be able to deal with it, put it out for a throw-in.
Konechny will take this corner. Flores is there with him as a short option. He sends it to the back post over the head of Dielna. Cleared all the way to Diego Chara. Back to Konechny. Switches it over to Dielna.
Certainly composed on the ball, Dielna. Doesn't mind accepting it, getting on it, looking for that pass. I always think if he's going to be the man beside Mabiala, which seems to be the conversation, right? Who's going to play beside Mabiala? You can understand that after the strong season the big centre back had for the Timbers. But Dielna, he offers that ability on the ball, that cleanliness to be able to play out. Of course, we associated that with Liam Ridgewell before. So you couldn't quite say he's the direct replacement for him. I think Cascante and Tuiloma will have something to say about that. But he certainly offers that quality just to be able to play out fine players for the Timbers.
He's 31 years old, very experienced. He's French most of his career. Came in his native country of France. Also has played in England and Romania, Slovenia, and Greece. Well-traveled center back. Was a designated player for New England. Was the highest paid defender in the league at the beginning of last year. Here's Ray Serrano, the youngster, defended by Diego Chara, and Konechny coming over to help defend as well.
He did well enough initially, Serrano, to take away the recovery run from Chara.
That was impressive. But with Chara on your back, you got to get rid of it now.
Konechny coming down the left wing, sending it into the box, and Nuhu getting a touch. It's Asprilla.
Good idea from Konechny. He's just trying to match the ball to the run from Laria, just arriving late.
Konechny hitting it from distance. Oh, Tomas Konechny not far away from a stunning goal.
He has looked a different player in preseason to what we saw last year. And again, the advantage of having a preseason, having that comfort, and Konechny just here when he gets on the ball, he finds he's in space. He already had a look before he receives it. Nice touch out of his body, running onto it, and it doesn't miss by much. It's enough to worry the goalkeeper Muse.
Tomas Konechny is still just 20 years old. A very experienced youth international for Argentina. Played in the 2015 U17 World Cup, the 2017 U20 World Cup. Never seemed to really settle in his first half season in Portland. Came on loan last July 17th.
Just when I thought it was going to be a little bit of a lull, about 3-4 minutes ago, it just picked up once again. Konechny just got everybody off their chair there. That was impressive.
Here's Konechny. Ibobusi wants it down the middle. Konechny instead plays to his feet. Leaves for Loria, and it's defended well. Just sat up for Danny Leyva.
Ibobusi obviously disappointed with that layoff off camera. You can see with his body language, unhappy with himself. It's what he prided himself upon, just coming into the side last year, and his ability to link up with Valeri and Blanco, and not only the technical ability, but being sharp in the mind to understanding the movement that was coming underneath him.
Gonzalez in between Farfan and Asprilla, curling for the back post, top corner. It's out for a goal kick. Matt, this is a time when Brian Schmetzer told us in the past couple of matches, it's been kind of men against boys, and it is right now.
Sure.
But important minutes still for these 16, 17-year-olds.
Well, you talked about the goals scored. I mean, these guys aren't afraid to take from 22 to 28 yards out. Obviously, Gonzalez there, he feels it. So did Serrano, going right down the gut.
And another opportunity for a youngster. Steve Clark making the save, and it's put wide. It was Alec Diaz forcing the save, and he just couldn't put the follow-up back on frame.
I think Diego Chara's done a fine job in the end. As the ball goes in behind, it's worked lovely, and strike nice and solid. Clark makes the initial save, but Chara, he does enough there. Just when Diaz is coming in thinking he's going to have that final touch, where Clark's scrambling to get back to his feet, it's Chara's leg that comes across.
And a great learning lesson from Diaz that he was second to that second ball. It was Chara, the veteran. You know, he's always going to be in there. If Diaz just makes that one step after he takes that shot, maybe he pokes it beyond Clark.
Talk about goal scorers. You mentioned the ridiculous numbers for some of these young guys. Alec Diaz had 36 goals in 38 games in 2018 for the youth team.
I wrote back to Seattle. I said, how many goals did the U17 score?
Yeah, right.
1,050? He goes, let me check. I said, no, don't do it. I'll just go each guy at a time. You know,
they have multiple players in the 20s and 30s, don't they?
Well, when you win in 6-0, 6-1 every match, these things happen. But again, now prove it on the next level. Prove it at Tacoma Defiance. Prove it with the #1 squad here. Show Gonzalo Pineda and Preki and Brian Schmetzer that you could do it against Diego Chara and Clark and these veterans Portland has.
Diaz had 2 goals in 5 matches for what were then known as Sounders 2 last season when he was an academy player. Since signed with the team now known as Tacoma Defiance. He just turned 17 in December, so he's still a young 17. Miller to Loria, gets it back to Roy Miller. Miller sending it into the box, and Nuhu heading it only as far away as Konechny, who looked like a foul. We're going to play on at the least. Leyva does well to spring Serrano. Has Diaz in the middle. He'll keep it himself. Serrano, a step over, and then the 31-year-old Claude Dielna takes it away from the 16-year-old Ray Serrano. Almost twice his age.